What's up, Internet, and welcome back to the Engadget Podcast. I'm Senior Editor Devindra Hardwire. This week, I'm joined by Senior Reporter Igor Bonafacic. Hey, Igor, how's it going?
So good. Thank you for having me, Dev.
Happy to have you here. And also, podcast producer Ben Ellman is here. Hey, Ben.
Third time's the charm for the stream. If you're not
Well,
listening to the stream or if you're not watching the stream, thank you.
it's been a busy morning here, a messy morning here for our live stream, but we've got a good show for you guys. First up, I have an interview with John Garrity, a former Apple engineer who worked on the Vision Pro and the Apple Watch and a couple of things. He worked on software engineering. So I think we had a really good chat, and yeah, just check that out first thing. Also, Igor and I are going to be talking about the One X Neo home robot, which looks terrifying, and Igor has some thoughts on the OpenAI restructuring as well. As always, folks, if you're enjoying the show, please be sure to subscribe to us on iTunes or your podcatcher of choice. Leave us a review on iTunes and drop us an email at podcastinggadget.com. And you can join us Thursday mornings for when our live stream is working, typically around 10:30 a.m. Eastern. All right, first up, here's my chat with John Garrity, the former Apple engineer. He's also co-founded, or he's founded a VR company called PulseJet Studios that is also working on creating VR content. He just recently did a project with Bjork, upgrading her, I forget what that album is called, but the album that she did that was like in VR but low scale, they upgraded it to a higher resolution. So check out our chat. And video folks, you can't hear this, but tune into the audio for that. When we have the technology, we can just like play a pre-recorded interview. That'll be nice. All right, let's move on to some other news. And I think the first thing, the most terrifying thing among, I don't know, the hellscape of living in 2025 right now, this company just decided to create a horrifying murder bot and announce it. It's called the company is Neo. The robot is the 1X, I believe. Let me double check that. Yes. No. The robot is Neo. The company is 1X. We're just calling it the 1X Neo. It's a $20,000 home robot that can perform basic tasks. It has a bit of AI. You can train it to do things, but crucially, it also is connected to teleconferencing or teleoperation. So a remote operator can do stuff, control the robot in your home for things that it cannot do yet, and maybe it'll learn from that. I don't know what's going on with this company, with the 1X Neo. Everything about this robot seems like a terrible idea. The robot itself looks like a murderer. It looks like a character from The Strangers. It's $20,000 or $500 a month, which puts this for like a certain echelon of user, but also this is something we'd have to live with for a while to see if it actually worked. But how would you feel like waking up in the middle of the night looking at this terrifying face, Igor? Like this thing, it's just a blank face, no nose, no mouth, two like doll button eyes. It it looks like a creepy pasta. It looks like something terrifying. Igor, first thoughts on this?
Yeah. So just I think an important bit of context is that he
Yeah.
said like most of the tasks it needs to carry out now have to be done through teleoperation because the AI is just not there and they
Mhm.
quote need the data before it can work. So not only might you wake up to this creepy face, but there might be someone watching you on the other
Yeah.
side, or a blurred out silhouette of you according to 1X,
Yeah.
right?
They said the remote operators need your permission to take control, sure, because that's never been broken before in the history of devices, right? Like any sort of limitation like that. Um, I'm going to run down some specs of this thing, and it looks like it's 5 feet tall, 6 inches, weighs 66 pounds. It runs 44 hours on battery, has a soft body. It looks like it's wearing like a sweater type thing. Um,
It looks like it's wearing
yeah.
something closer to a like Star Trek bodysuit,
Yeah,
actually.
it's some sort of body shoot that's doing. It can lift up to 154 pounds. It can carry 55 pounds. Has microphones and speakers. Of course, we've said before that I would love AI to do the dirty work for me, right? Like, don't do the creative work, don't do the art. Do my dishes so I can do the art. And this is sort of like rubbing the monkey's paw thing, right? Or taking a wish on the monkey's paw. Eventually, to do those things, we will need some sort of like AI powered home robot to do it. what terrifies me about this is that it is basically rooted in teleoperation because they don't have the data and the AI is not there. This thing seems like an inherently bad idea, and seeing it in action too is just terrifying. Let me get this up on our stream. Ben, would you want one of these things? $20,000 for a horrifying home robot?
No, for a lot of different reasons.
Uh huh.
The thing that I can't stop thinking about is like I've said many, many times that I think a lot of the new fascination with AI and AGI is going to end up being just smoke and mirrors for a mechanical Turk. Like that's
Yeah.
not a fresh take. That's
Yeah.
not like super smart or anything, but it feels truer and truer. They're saying, oh, we're going to need to use something, or we're going to need to use teleoperators now so we can get this off the ground, and then we'll get more data, and so on and so on. It's sounding more and more like the thing that I heard online. I don't remember who said it, that AGI actually stands for a guy in India.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
you're going to be using like global south data workers
Yeah.
that you know that you can pay like $5 USD a day,
Yeah.
and that's going to be the thing that like ushers us into the AGI future.
It's like Fiverr, except they're controlling robots, or like what's the Amazon thing? The Amazon thing where they
Literally make that's Mechanical Turk.
yeah, they do call it Mechanical Turk, but it's like yeah, Amazon's always been cutting edge on the labor on labor exploitation over there. But we also know that the large language models, OpenAI, and all the major companies have relied on workers in Africa and workers elsewhere doing training for their language models as well, right, Igor?
Yeah, and there's just like so many limitations with large language models,
Yeah.
right? Like even like I know they're like Google is working on some like a version of Gemini that is for robotics, but all of this they're just they don't really reason in the way that humans do, right? And so
Mhm.
I don't think it will make them, even though you're just kind of automating a butler, there's still a lot of like on the fly decision making that you have to do as a butler, right? In terms of how to clean something, right? That I don't think
Mhm.
these like robots are going to be really good at.
No, for sure. At the first, the CEO has a really kind of like threatening statement because there's a whole video from the Wall Street Journal and Joanna Stern, but he says if we don't have your data, we can't make the product better, and that's referencing the teleoperation. That's not my problem. That's your problem. Fix
That's
it.
it sounds like it's
Yeah.
being said with like a shaking fist. Like
Yeah.
we can't make it better if you don't give us the data.
Which is what OpenAI and all the other AI companies are saying too. We if we can't have your copyrighted materials, we can't make the AI better. What do you want us to give up on all this AI slop? And everyone's saying yes. Please stop. Um. Anyway, that's the One X Neo.
I mean, okay,
We should
before we
let's talk
finish
about
up,
that.
Yeah.
We should talk about that. Yeah.
I need to jump in with the like friend who is too woke take, which is what are you really asking for when you're asking for a robot butler like this?
Yeah.
Um, I remember last year when Tesla did their We Robot event, and
Mm-hmm.
they were talking about their Android, and like everybody on X got really excited.
Mm-hmm.
Think about who's on X these days. I'm going to read a tweet for you by, I think, a VC who lives in South Africa.
Mm-hmm.
This person said, imagine having a housekeeper that doesn't vote ANC, doesn't have 55 uncles' funerals to attend every year, won't steal your food, and you only have to pay for it once. ANC, of course, is the African National Congress, the anti-apartheid party in South Africa. So the there's some weird racial dynamics going on here, even though it's
Yeah.
robots.
I mean, it's a weird thing too. Like, it depends on in other countries too. The idea of having helpers in your home is a more common thing. This was a big discussion when Roma, the Alfonso Cuarón movie, was out on Netflix, and people were like, "Oh, look at these rich people in Mexico City with servants." So in a lot of places in Latin America and South America, even among like my family in South America who have no money, but there are people that they can pay within their village or nearby in their neighborhoods to come help out. So household helpers are always a thing. But yeah, as it becomes more high end, it's inherently more of a classist thing. Um, there's so many layers. There's so many layers to this. It's kind of terrifying. I just want a little robot that I can train like a kid. Like all those like give me something that learns from me like the thing from Big Hero 6, you know.
You're the one from Susie, or what was
Yeah.
that? It was on Apple TV recently, and got canceled after one season. But it was a much cuter robot than this.
Make it cute. How about
Yeah,
that?
Well, and that's the thing. Like, Big Hero 6 is Booba. Like,
Hmm.
it is round, it is friendly.
Hmm.
Um, and I guess they're trying to do their best by hiding all of the like whirring parts and like mechanical tendons and stuff with this like Star Trek bodysuit here. But is it all that effective? Because it makes it look like I don't know, something from a Halloween haunted house. Happy Halloween tomorrow, guys.
Happy Halloween. It's too late for me to be the 1X Neo. All I
True.
need- It's actually you just get a bodysuit, get button eyes.
Yeah, literally, just like get a morph suit. If you have a morph suit laying around and you can get some like doll eyes, there you go. There's your costume, especially if it's one of those like white morph suits. So anybody listening who hasn't figured out a costume, you got it.
You got it.
I-
What will it take for us to have like a legitimately good home robot? Because I've been interested in this for a while. I've had a Roomba since like 2005, since like my first apartment. It was like a used thing. It was still like 400, $500, but it autonomously vacuumed my floors and I was happy. And I followed Roomba as they've like steadily like made those things smarter, but they've never become like they're not in everybody's home, right? Robot vacuums have gotten cheaper. Chinese manufacturers have made them cheaper, but they all specifically do one thing. You have a robot vacuum, robot mop, maybe a robot lawnmower. That's a thing. A multi-purpose thing with limbs that can maneuver 3D space, that can do tasks. That's going to need a lot of work. I don't know, from your perspective, Igor, is this something you would even want eventually? Because I do think I want it, but I want to train it and I don't want it to be operated by people from across the world.
yeah. I think just the amount of investment capital required to make this a reality,
Hmm.
it it automatically kind of fits into the issues that we were talking about. That the people who necessarily have the money to fund this don't have our best interests, or really the best interests of working class people, or the worse off, to really execute this in a way that is, I think, equitable. And then beyond that, I just, the reality is that like large language models, this is not what they're made to do, right? They're made to predict the next word in a sequence of words, right? And making them do like this is just not what they're designed or fit to tasks to do, right? So
Well, it would be a different kind of model because NVIDIA talks about this quite a bit for a long time, even before LLMs were like super mainstream. NVIDIA was like, we have these things looking at driving data, and our self-driving computers are processing all this data, and it's going to make it so that a car can do its thing. But you train by doing the task over and over again and kind of refining it. So I guess like sort of like that's more like learning through training, where the large language model specifically, they get a big dump of data and then they start to make sense of it. So that's, I don't know if we'll have like another way of saying how we're crafting this version of AI. We'll get here eventually. We'll have some sort of home robot, but please don't make it look like a murder bot. Step one, don't make it look like something. If this thing were standing over your bedside and you wake up in the middle of the night and it's looking at you, you don't want to have a heart attack. Design something that doesn't give me a heart attack in the middle of the night. That's step one. Let us know what you think, folks. Podcast at Engadget.com. Ben, any thoughts? You look like you were going to say something. Okay. Let's move on to some other news. Quick thoughts. So a big update on what was happening last week, which you didn't get to talk about. There was a massive AWS outage that affected so many things, affected most major websites, a lot of services. Amazon says it was an automation bug that caused that. This took down everything. Like Amazon Alexa devices, Bank of America, Snapchat, Canva, Reddit, Apple Music, Apple TV, Fortnite, Disney Plus, Venmo, DoorDash, Hulu, PlayStation, and even 8 Sleep. That
And most
has
importantly, aspects of Engadget's own website. I was
yeah,
trying to get something done on Monday, and I will often navigate to the author pages
yeah.
of Engadget. They just were not working.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I don't know why the rest of the site was working, but like author pages specifically just did not go, and I can only imagine it was AWS stuff.
Also, our new CMS, which isn't great in the best of days, completely inoperable due to AWS.
We've talked about this before, the over-reliance of of basically having all services on a single cloud, being on Amazon's cloud, kind of a downside. Who's the other big cloud provider? Microsoft. Microsoft's Azure server service also had like a big issue this week. Took down Microsoft 365, Xbox, and Starbucks because Starbucks has a lot of stuff there. But a lot of people are on Azure. That took
Is
down
that really just because of the Seattle connection? Like Starbucks and Microsoft's?
probably probably makes sense. But Capital One Alaska Airlines, which I think is also based like in that area, they attributed a DNS issue to that. But same thing. If Azure and AWS went down at the same time, we wouldn't be able to do anything. We'd be able to do very little on the modern internet, and that is kind of terrifying. And we're just doing so much more too. Like OpenAI servers, like OpenAI is relying on Azure for a lot of this cloud processing. Microsoft is relying on cloud processing more for their Copilot features, right? A lot of the new Copilot stuff we talked about from a couple weeks ago, they don't require an NPU in your system. Copilot is like reaching out to servers, so that makes these services even less useful. Like when they're integrating Copilot into Windows, Windows becomes less useful if you have no internet connection. Again, another major downside there. Um, just kind of a mess. It's kind
I
of a mess there.
I wonder, Dev, like, what do you
Mhm.
think is the solution, right? Because I think obviously this is a byproduct of just like capitalism in the fact
Yeah.
that, like, this is the most efficient and cost-effective way that we've found to provide internet services to so many, and yet obviously it creates a very like easy to
Too
break
much
point.
cloud and too few hands.
Yes.
Yeah, and I know there isn't like an easy solution because we've allowed these companies to essentially monopolize this space. Like before AWS was a thing, the idea of having a single company hosting a ton of servers was kind of literally a pie in the sky idea. But Amazon had like the money and had people to push this thing. It was like, okay, let's just make a big ass data center. And they did it. And then Microsoft followed suit. But how many other like big companies can really do this level of thing at a level of scale? Not many. So then your option is to, okay, run stuff on, you have to make your own servers. You have to build your own systems to do that. And that is also tough and very expensive. So that's not something startups or young companies can do. Maybe older companies can do that. But the thing about the cloud is that it enabled the entire rise of startups, like all the startups we saw post 2008, right? Like Instagram, everything. Instagram didn't have to buy thousands of servers to store photos. They bought some cloud storage and they built an app around that. That's a story to tell, by the way. Like,
Yeah, I remember reading Steve Levy's book about
Mhm.
how Google was founded. And I mean, a big part of the early saga of like their scaling story was the fact that they had to have their own servers because it was
Mhm.
like 2002. It was earlier than that.
Even in the 90s, it was just like warehouses of desktop machines, right? And eventually they moved over to servers. But it was always like managing your own servers is tough and comes with its own downside. So basically we live with the fact that everything could go down at once because for a lot of these companies it is so much easier to outsource that aspect of the work. When I was working in IT in college, like we managed our own on-site email servers, right? Gmail wasn't a thing yet. Cloud-based email, online email was kind of a thing with Hotmail, but internally for a college, you need security. You need like high level IT service that Hotmail does not provide. So we had servers on campus which were controlled by Microsoft Exchange. So like you have a Microsoft Exchange subscription, but It's to control the license of the stuff you have on site. So anyway, that is a future. That's a past that we're not easily going to return to. The cloud storage and cloud servers are basically our future, but this is going to keep happening unless I don't know, unless these companies like avoid these very simple pitfalls. Briefly, I also want to mention we saw the news that Nvidia is the first company to hit a $5 trillion market cap. It's the world's first $5 trillion company. How do we feel about that?
Igor, how much
Yeah,
of that is a mirage? That's the
yeah,
big question.
because it's all AI money. Yeah, I think you're
Igor, you're muted.
yeah.
Apologies. Yeah. So I don't know if you saw this, but in aggregate, Nvidia is worth more than all of the stock markets outside from the US, China, and Japan
Mhm.
together, right? So
It's bad. Okay.
you know, so but I think a lot of this value right now is these kind of circular deals we're seeing in
Mhm.
like in the AI industry, and a lot of
There
it.
was that Bloomberg article that's
Yeah.
just like the same $100 billion is being passed around from
Mhm.
OpenAI to NVIDIA to AMD, so on and so on.
Yeah. And um I think I also read that recently, in terms of the US, something above 90% of the GDP growth that was in the last year was in AI and data center investment,
Mhm.
um, which
I was
obviously,
literally talking about that with a friend last night.
yeah, which suggests we are in a bubble, right? And so I wonder, eventually,
90% because the number I saw was 40%, but even still, yeah,
whatever
yeah,
percentage it
it's a
is,
large percentage of the
it's a
economy.
large percentage where if this unravels, we are in real big trouble, right? On top of all the other economic disturbances that are happening, right?
Gotta. We've learned nothing from the 2008 financial crisis. We've learned nothing from every major economic hit that has happened to us, because all these companies are just like, oh man, gold rush, gold rush. Let's do this. Let's put AI in our stuff. Let's invest in AI.
So Igor,
Yeah.
you were right. This is
Mhm.
a article on Yahoo Finance that cites Harvard economist Jason Furman. He said that AI investments accounted for nearly 92% of American GDP growth in the
Good
first
job.
half of 2025.
Good.
So this is not just like, hey, maybe we're in a bubble, like maybe there's a little bit too much speculation. This is like Steve Carell in The Big Short making his cell phone call saying like, it's a bubble, definitely, like buy the default swaps, like
Yeah.
find a bunker. It
Find a
like
bunker.
this is
Save your money.
scary.
Yeah.
And yeah, and I think the problem is like you mentioned the 2008 recession, and
Mhm.
I think there was some regulation that was put in place to prevent something similar to this, but it's been kind of carved away over the years, right?
Yeah.
And
I mean, the
yeah,
current administration is actively carving away any sort of like regulatory protections in the financial market. So they these folks don't want regulation. They want unfettered access to, casino money, essentially. And that is now we're building an entire economy around it. And everybody, even the companies we thought were kind of sane, everybody's jumping aboard. Maybe I don't know about Apple. Apple has not made these crazy investments other than the oh shit, everybody thinks we're behind in AI. But Microsoft,
Because you are.
Google, yeah, they are to an extent, but also, as we've said many times, maybe you should wait. Maybe you should slow down because the way Microsoft accelerated Copilot into everything, I think, is scary for a tool that doesn't work all the time. I think that's not why I buy a computer. So, and I can't get over it every time I talk to executives about this. They're like, "Oh yeah, it's going to get better." You know, you may run into some trouble, but we're working on it. We're working on it. That's not I don't know, man. That's not
yeah.
how anything that's not how computers should work.
And
In
you
the
asked them
live
about the
stream,
usage stats, right? And they always very cagey about those, right? Because they're not
yeah,
good.
Yeah.
because they definitely have them. It's just it's probably in the single digits, and they don't want to report something like that.
hmm It's yeah, what's weird is that on multiple aspects of our culture right now, you can see a train hurtling towards us right now, and a lot of people are just like, how much money can I make before this runs me over? And that's the predominant thinking, rather than, hey, Maybe we should try to stop this crash from happening. Anyway, it's a whole thing, and actually kind of leads us into what you wanted to talk about too, Igor. OpenAI has finished its reorganization, which means what does that mean exactly?
The short of it is that they're now structured like a more traditional for-profit company,
Mhm.
and it clears the way for them to eventually go public. And I was like, I really wanted to talk to you about this because so much of this was contingent on Microsoft's approval.
Yeah.
They were the biggest single investor in OpenAI, and the terms of that deal were like, let's say, very difficult for OpenAI. Part of it was a revenue share, and that revenue share, I don't think it's the details are very like slim, but it sounds like the percentage hasn't changed, just that OpenAI can pay it over a longer period of time, which again just goes to what we were talking about, where it's like, the same 100 million or $100 billion just going in circles. And the interesting part here too is that OpenAI, I believe they've agreed to spend 250 billion on Azure services,
Mhm.
right? And the question I have is, with what money, right? Like, I think
They
this is
don't
a
have
company.
money. They're
They
not
don't
making.
have
They don't
money,
have
right?
revenue.
Yeah. So how, like, they do have revenue, they don't have a profit, right?
Right,
I
right, right.
believe it's like 18 billion annualized, which, I've never seen 18 billion in my life, but
Yeah.
on the scale of these companies, like, that's nothing, right?
Which is how all these. This is how all these startups have always worked. Really, I guess over the last like 15 years, like Facebook took a while to make a profit or make money. Uber, all the major companies, Amazon famously like operated in a way where it looked on paper as if it was not actually making profit because it kept reinvesting money, I think was the way that worked. But we had always prioritized like VC money and corporate like investments from outside sources rather than the money these companies are actually making for them to survive, which is why companies that have no products can be supposedly hypothetically worth billions of dollars, which we've seen in a couple AI companies. So yeah,
Yeah. I mean, in the
yeah,
case of
fun times.
yeah, like, I think, they've famously estimated like they need like $1 trillion or whatever, right? Like more money than in the history of like
Uh-huh.
venture capital, right? And The other thing here that's interesting is like so much of this is contingent on them achieving quote unquote AGI, right?
Mhm.
But
I was going to say
we,
that.
right, like beyond like the understanding that AGI is like, a system that can do some things better than a human being,
Mhm.
we haven't really decided on like what is the empirical backing behind that, like what is like how are we going to judge this, right? So I
It's
think
all on faith. The
uh,
most ridiculous thing. It's like we're waiting for, it's a very religious thing. Yeah, we're waiting for the rapture. We're just preparing for the second coming of Christ. We're preparing for like it's on that level of
yeah,
like yeah.
Also, OpenAI is not moving currently like
Mhm.
a company that is on the precipice of AGI. They are
mhm,
moving in a way that's like, maybe you can sext with ChatGPT. Like, is that something you want? You
yeah,
wouldn't do that. It's something that I said a few episodes ago. Like,
Mhm.
if you are, the new Apple and you have, imagine like a pristine storefront and, really good design, you're not going to put a sketchy marquee out on the side that says girls, girls, girls.
I mean, there is that. I feel like for all these companies, they just want runway, right? And we've talked about this before.
But this
They
isn't
don't-
even going to be runway.
Well, it's sort of runway because it just generates money and it raises their overall valuation. So if they're not actually making a profit, they have money coming in or they have perceived value. And Igor, you may have more, like, I'm sure you have more of an understanding of how they actually produce models and everything. But at least from what I understand, is like they kind of stumbled into this technology. The black box of an LLM or how these things work, we don't necessarily know exactly. So like if they don't even know how the stuff works right now, and they're just kind of dumping content in there and kind of hoping and praying, how is the road to AGI, which is like an actual consciousness or intelligence, going to happen? They have no
yeah,
clue, so they need the runway to just keep going until then.
yeah. I mean, I think the anecdote I heard is that famously they called it ChatGPT because they're like, no one's going to want to use this, so
Mhm.
why would we bother to give it like a cool name, right?
Yeah.
You know, so I think that kind of speaks to like there was, you know, this was all by accident, right? And then, you know, and the big part of this is also the, you know, like what was a contentious issue is OpenAI originally was a nonprofit,
Yeah.
right? And so that kind of changes the dynamic of what became the business, right? Which is it had to kind of adhere to this vision of like safe artificial general intelligence for the public. And now it's more just about profit motive, even though that like it seems the nonprofit still has some control over it, but obviously
Mhm.
it's different than it would be had the company just kept its original structure, right? And that's kind of,
Yeah. Yeah.
and I think that's ultimately like it's really the sad part of this story is that like the motivation changed so quickly just to be profit motivation, right?
With
And
a hint of profit potential, they were like, okay, scrap that, screw that.
yeah,
But it was only a nonprofit because Elon Musk and Sam Altman and the early founders were just like, I don't think they saw a sustainable business. They were just like,
yeah,
we need like a theoretical thing to fight against the evils of AI by building our own AI. But it was a
Well,
nonprofit.
yeah, it was
It couldn't be
supposed to be like a
yeah.
sandbox Montessori school sort of
Yeah.
situation where you just have a bunch of people who are smart at machine learning
Mm.
and they'll just like fumble around for a while.
That's
And
fumbling in the dark is a good way of describing a lot of this. Yeah.
yeah. And I mean, also the other part of this is like, you know, when you you don't invest into a nonprofit, you donate your money,
Right.
right? With
Right.
the expectation that there will be no return, right? And that I think is fundamentally at the heart of why Musk was so upset about this is,
Hmm.
you know, he gave this money and now there are people like, you know, Microsoft is laughing because they're going to come out of this deal like I think someone like the analysis is a 10x return, right? At
Yeah.
least,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? So
Even if OpenAI fails, like they've got the Azure business, they've got so much out of it. Also, this gives Microsoft time to work on its own models, which it's also doing. It's not just putting all its eggs in the OpenAI basket. Like it has its own stuff. It just hasn't grown as quickly as OpenAI. I want to mention briefly too that OpenAI has been sued for trademark infringement over Sora's Cameo feature because it's called Cameo and it's making cameos just like the company Cameo. Yes, that's copyright infringement. It's or trademark infringement. That's very, very stupid. Cameo said OpenAI used the name quote in blatant disregard for the obvious confusion it would create. End quote. Yes, that seemed when they announced that that seemed like a very. Did you guys get a partnership with Cameo or something to like keep that branding? I don't know what's up there. I've not used these features, but I have used Cameo, and we people online people know what Cameo is. Igor, thoughts on this? Is this another example of OpenAI just not caring about copying stuff?
yeah, everything about
Same
this
as
app,
Sora. Yeah.
yeah, everything about Sora just kind of stinks, right? Like
Mhm.
I haven't used it just because I think there's just there's just too much at risk, right, to use this app, right? And it, like I really just like I don't know if you saw this isn't strictly related to
Mhm.
Sora, but during the GTC NVIDIA GTC presentation, there was a simultaneous live stream where it was an AI generated version of Jensen pumping a crypto scam, and
Uh-huh.
it had more. I, I think it was 5 times as many
Yeah.
viewers as the official. Like as a society, we're just like not prepared for this, right? And
Mhm.
like
the
again,
Netrunners did a good job that day. Welcome to Night City,
yeah.
everybody.
But to speak specifically to your concern, I think like the thing about Cameo, as much as it's like a lot of C-list celebrities on this thing,
Yeah.
um,
Cameo has dark energy to me. Like,
yeah,
It
keep going,
um,
Igor.
yeah, yeah.
on the one hand, there is like, you know, like it's like this late stage capitalism where these like
Mhm.
C-list, you know, they're like putting up these videos that you pay for, right? But at least it is a source of like revenue for them that they might not necessarily have.
Yeah.
Whereas with Sora, like, you know, the only company making money on Sora is OpenAI, right?
Yeah. Cameo is kind of a messy. I remember when Cameo launched, we're like, are people going to pay for stuff from celebrities you don't even remember? But it seems like their business is doing well. I've heard, I have friends who do Cameo just to do like create personal content for people. It's made them money. I got my wife a video from Brent Spiner one year to wish her a happy birthday. And that was lovely. And that's a cool thing. You can't get that in any other way. So,
Do you think George
certainly.
Santos is back on Cameo now that he's out of
He was
jail?
immediately back on Cameo, I think. I thought he was like immediately there. But it's like, hey, you don't go to Cameo for quality. You go like, hey, remember that guy you used to watch on TV? Maybe he can make you a cool little video. And that's cool. And he gets a little money because also actors, a lot of those like B-list, C-list folks are not making money regularly, unless they
Yeah.
have
Yeah.
income from like a syndicated show or something.
I
So,
mean, even the syndicated checks come in. Like, I
mhm.
don't know if you've ever seen Dante Bosco do
Yeah, yeah,
his royalties roulette. Like, he gets a stack of checks in the mail.
yeah.
He'll open them like in front of the camera for a TikTok video, and maybe he'll make like $500 off of Hook or something. And
Mhm,
it's
mhm.
surprising that he's still making like $500. I don't know what the period is on that though. Is he
Yeah.
making $500 quarterly? Is he making $500 a month? But sometimes you get a whole paper check for 38 cents.
Yeah, I mean, there was a whole Seinfeld thing about this too. Like this goes way back, but yeah.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on to something maybe less depressing. I don't know. YouTube announced a couple of new features this week, and one of the more interesting ones, um, they're introducing a new AI-powered feature that will automatically generate high resolutions for videos for things uploaded below 1080p. It's going to be scaling them from SD to HD with the goal to support resolutions up to 4K. Creators will retain complete control over their library. Both the original files and original resolution will be kept intact with a clearer option to opt out. Viewers will still be able to watch creators' videos, and the original resolution as super resolution will be clearly labeled under settings. What thoughts on this? Because this is kind of interesting. We have seen AI upscaling happen on like 4K Blu-rays and some streaming releases, and people generally have not liked these things. This is more like this is going to be automatic upscaling, taking even less video data and turning it into something more. I don't know if you guys have feelings about this.
I think the transparency is good. And I want to say, because it's like YouTube quality videos,
Mhm.
and that I'm okay with this, right? Whereas I think like when it comes to, like really historic like film releases, that I don't want to see upscaling on, right? Because so often it's
Mhm.
just so bad. But like here, if it's like, a 480p video that I've been watching since like 2007 and it's upscaled, that's okay.
I don't know. It's the cultural relevance of like a 480p YouTube video, right, from 2006, 2007, that has been memeified forever, right, and is important to the culture. I can think of a couple right now. At least they're letting you still watch the original resolution, right? I think there's
Yeah.
value to that. If this was just stomping over that and you could only see the AIified version of it, I feel like there would be some problems there. Just from a historical perspective, I feel like it's great to see. It's great to be able to see things in their native resolution and their native presentations. There's a short like demo from YouTube in an animated GIF here showing a 240p or no, a 144p clip being scaled up to 1080p. I can't tell because it's a little video window. I know it's doable. I know TVs and other things have been doing like basic SD upscaling for a long while. It'll be interesting to see like what happens with this. Ben, you also want to talk about this story as well, right?
Yeah,
Which where
it's
we're getting into, we have to talk about the sad scale of how technology is intersecting with ICE and the CPB, U.S. Customs and Border Protection. We have a story that CPB will photograph non-citizens entering and exiting the U.S. for its facial recognition database, because nothing bad happens when countries start building databases of people they don't like or don't trust. That seems inherently bad. And
databases of people, period. Just
yeah,
stop there.
just stop there. And that
Remember in, I think, very early
Mhm.
2020, like we were still doing podcast recordings at the Manhattan office that
Yeah,
Engadget doesn't even occupy anymore.
mhm.
We talked about how
I were there.
Clearview
We were there
AI
for the
might
early
have
days.
been
Yeah.
on the ropes and how like it was going down the tubes. A lot can happen in approximately 5 years and 2 presidential administrations.
A lot can happen. I mean, you also want to point the story from 44 Media. Love those
Yep.
folks there. They have a story about ICE and CPP agents scanning people's faces on the street to verify citizenship. So this is the logical outcome of building a database like this.
There are two big things that I want to talk about
Yep.
here. One is more conceptual of like, let's just take a second to realize how important TikTok has been
Yep.
in reporting breaking news. This is something that I wrote about like at the very beginning of my career in media. There was I think there was a video of a soccer game happening in Paris at the
Mhm.
same time as the Paris terrorist attacks. And it was a 6-second video that just happened to catch a um the sound of an explosion or
Mhm.
something. And that's one of the things that went viral. And I was like, this is probably going to happen a lot more often. Breaking news is going to end up being um uploaded to uh social media sites,
Mhm.
and especially like small bits of video are probably going to do that. So that's
Yeah.
great for TikTok. Igor, yeah, you go on.
Yeah, if I may just add, like George Floyd would have just been a person who died in a press release if it
Mhm.
wasn't like if you look at the press release that was issued when he was murdered, like it didn't go into any of the details we saw in video, right? And that would have just that injustice would have just passed, right? And there's probably so many more injustices that we don't know about because they're just, police press releases or that don't catch the ugly details of these incidents.
I mean,
And
purposefully
it's
mislead what happens. But yeah, go ahead.
Well, yeah, and it's I mean, now that we have AI video, it gets scary again
Mhm.
because I mean, 10 years ago it was pics or it didn't happen. Then like people got really good at Photoshop and we saw like an older generation fall for a lot more Photoshops. Basically it was video or it didn't happen. Now, not even the video could be like
Yeah.
total proof.
It's
Anyway,
a
that's like
conversation
getting very,
this
very
week.
conceptual. If you
Yeah.
want to hear more about that, go listen to last week's episode on
Mhm.
AI video. But another big thing here is that this might be the first time that I've actually seen a Palantir app in action.
Hmm.
I've heard so much about it for a long time, and it was always in the context of like they do like B2B sort of stuff.
Yeah.
They work on like corporate surveillance. Of course, that's probably what they were doing, like, quote unquote, a little bit stealth mode. Like everybody knew that Palantir was a company, but like I think Palantir's goals were always to get more intertwined with the American government. It's just that they didn't have uh, party in the White House that was wanted to hear them out. Now, yes, there's this TikTok video taken by I think a teenager where
Mhm.
CPB stops them and they're like, "We're American, we're American." And the ICE guys are like, "Okay, let's just like verify that." And they like start holding up a phone. It's like,
Mhm.
this is wild. What is the underpinnings of this technology that you're using? Like, we don't know anything about this Palantir app quite yet. What is it pulling from?
Yeah.
Yeah, and just even like, these police officers, you can clearly see, none of them you can't see any of their faces, right? Like,
Yeah,
it's just such a double standard.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
yeah. It's absolutely just disgusting. Shout out to 44 who has been tracking a lot of the tech that ICE and CPB have been like relying on and kind of how this is affecting everything right now. Um, we were talking about Ben. You were mentioning TikTok has been so useful for spreading these types of videos now because there used to be Twitter. Used to be Twitter where this stuff was really shared first, and I think quickly that's been killed by a right wing owner.
I don't think
Everybody
it's
else
even
is
so
like,
much that
yeah,
though. I think
yeah,
that in the time between, let's say, 2020 and now, there's just a lot more people who are like, yes, I do have a supercomputer in my pocket and I can use it to take video
for sure,
of
for sure.
anything that might be important.
But the actual act of taking videos and getting online, that hasn't changed much since 2020. But who's in power of Twitter, who's in power of these things has changed a lot. And Larry Ellison is coming up to potentially be the new owner of TikTok. Like, what is going to
Yeah.
happen to that platform
Y-
when that also comes under right wing ownership?
Yeah, and I think that is easily the most significant, development in
Hmm.
our industry, right? Because I think, if once TikTok is owned by Larry Ellison, then like, is it really going to be this place where you see these videos anymore?
Hmm. Hmm. That's basically it.
People are talking about Skylight as a possible alternative. That's the more open source, more well, not open source, but open protocol
Mhm.
version of TikTok that's being worked on, developed by Blue Sky.
Yeah.
Who knows whether or not that's going to go anywhere, though, because
Like I love Blue Sky. I love spending time on Blue Sky and talking with people. I rarely see like breaking news the way I used to see it on Twitter, right? It's not as globally tapped in as Twitter was. So Blue Sky, we're going to see the stuff eventually. What I see is TikTok shared to Blue Sky more often than not. I see people, yeah, downloading
it
stuff and
took a
putting it up there.
seismic global event to get everybody on TikTok in the first place.
Yeah.
It was pandemic lockdown. People were like, okay, well, they're talking about this new app. Let's go check it out. And that's where all of the users came from. Like, it's hard to get everybody on one app. And I think, Devindra, that's what you were talking about.
Hmm.
It used to be that everybody was on Twitter,
Or a lot of
or
people.
everybody you cared about was on
Yeah.
Twitter. Then, because of a couple of different things, it wasn't just Elon Musk buying it, it was the pandemic. And a lot of people who were kind of casual internet users getting a lot more into like short form video.
Hmm.
So everybody went on to TikTok, mostly because of, I think, like pandemic stuff. I don't know.
I don't know. There's another thing.
Yeah, one last
On the
piece of other news.
Why Things $380 toilet mounted urine analyzer is finally ready to buy. I think we've discussed this before. This has been a thing that we've covered on Engadget before. It's a little puck that sits on the front of your potty, and it analyzes your urine.
Do you have to pee on it?
You have to pee on it. That's the whole point.
Well,
That's the
yeah, but
whole
like
point of the
I was
product.
wondering if it took samples from the water or
Yeah.
if you had to release directly onto it.
I mean, I don't. I feel like that's a diluted sample if it's in taking the water. I think you gotta take it straight from the source.
This is
Yeah.
dicey. This is a weird thing to talk about.
Imagine like, yeah. Go ahead.
The only thing that I have to say is like this is, I guess, the end stage of surveillance capitalism,
Uh huh.
because like they want to know this, and they being large companies, and they don't want to know your specific data, but they do want to know, like, in the aggregate, like what's in Americans pee, because maybe they'll be able to like sell some kind of like health solutions or something.
For sure.
um
The data will
Connect
always
this
be
with the
useful.
idea that RFK says, like, we want everyone to have a wearable by 2030 or something like that.
It's like that. It's car insurance companies offer these little like devices you plug into your car. Like, hey, if you monitor your driving performance, you'll get a discount on your bill. But what they really want is the data to also be like, hey, you were going too fast in that zone, so we're not gonna we're gonna call you liable for this particular accident or something. Like you are giving up data that can be used in many different ways. Um, I wonder if
And they
insurance
only sell it to
companies
you in the context of like, it can make your car insurance cheaper.
we can make it cheaper.
If you drive like Waymo, and sometimes Waymos go crazy too.
Oh man, yeah. Poor. Yeah, there's a story. Waymo ran over a cat in San Francisco, and like it's
Ugh.
freaking people out right now.
R.I.P.
For this
Kitty.
thing in particular, I can imagine insurance companies being like, "Hey, put this in your toilet. We want to keep track of your health, just to make sure you're safe. I mean, keep you healthy." That data could easily be used against you in so many ways. But again, this is inherently ridiculous. It is a $380 toilet analyzing, urine analyzing puck that goes in your toilet.
That,
Maybe like we've seen. Yeah. Go ahead, Igor.
yeah, that as far as I understand, hasn't been clinically tested to show how accurate it is, right?
Yeah, I don't think so. I have not seen
FDA
study
approved
on that.
toilet puck. It's not though.
It's not. Maybe this is a preview of what we'll be seeing at CES. I feel like I saw like some sort of like actual feces.
There's always toilet tech at CES.
There's always toilet, but I feel like this year it's gonna be a big one. So stay tuned to us and a couple of our writers who end up having to do. They have the most fun with toilet tech, so we'll be doing that. Let's move on to stories from around Engadget. I want to highlight Billy Steele reviewed the new Amazon Echo Studio for us. He called it a comprehensive redesign for Alexa Plus. It is circular. It's spherical instead of cylindrical like the other Echo Studio, but he notes that it doesn't sound as good. And that's kind of interesting. It is smaller, and I have an Echo Studio that I bought when Amazon was just like fire selling those things because nobody wanted to buy a super expensive Echo. But when it was under $200, it was like, ooh, cheap connected speaker. That's nice. So I still use it in my kitchen. It's a good sounding speaker for what it is. The Echo Studio, it just seems like Amazon's trying to push Alexa Plus and people, which is a $20 a month subscription, or if you have Prime, I think it's just included in your Prime stuff, but it's another reason for people to be subscribing to Prime. I have not tried Alexa Plus. Shalyn did a preview for us way back in like July, I think, and I think she found it kind of interesting. Given the way everything is going right now, I am totally fine with like using Alexa for basic tasks. I don't know if I want to have long conversations with Alexa Plus. Do you guys feel differently about that? I don't know how Alexa pilled you are at this point.
I mean, the best tweet I saw on Blue Sky during the AWS shortages, like days like this is why I don't have a smart home, right? Like because everything stops working, right? So
there were multiple
true.
posts on the platforms that I saw of somebody being like, my bed doesn't work. What do you mean your bed doesn't work because of an AWS outage?
Literally doesn't work. I've heard from multiple people that they couldn't operate the lights in their houses properly because it's possible to have connected lights that are not connected to like an actual switch. It's just like a thing you plug in somewhere. And so, yeah, I've run into that a couple of times too. Luckily, like I can still manually control things, but it's more inconvenient. It's more of a pain. Anyway, that's gonna be a whole thing. Yeah, check out Billy's review, and I think we're gonna be looking at the other Amazon devices soon too. So keep an eye out for that. Moving on to what we're working on, I wrote up a short like think piece about like what Apple could be doing next for the Vision Pro. Specifically, I think like we saw the Samsung thing, the Galaxy XR debut last week, and it's another big ass headset. It's a VR headset essentially that's really expensive. And it just seems to me like Apple could easily lift a lot of what we're seeing from X-Real and other companies developing these like smart glasses that look more like sunshades and have displays in them, but are far lower tech. Like they're not enveloping VR. It's not a display that is recreating the entire world for you. It is totally possible for Apple to do this and do it for like $1,000 or something, which I think would be much more approachable. And we go check out my piece around that because I'm still working on my review of the Vision Pro, the M5, but I just couldn't stop thinking about this. Igor, anything you want to shout out from your end?
only to say that I'm disappointed that you didn't mention that Magic Leap is partnering with Google to work on an Android XR headset. That company that I'm just happy not to have to think about always comes back to haunt me.
It's a Magic Leap was such a great example of like again the hype around a lot of this tech. They were so overhyped. They raised so much money and it all amounted to nothing. But now we have like more technology that can actually make something like the Magic Leap real. So Google's also teaming up with X-Rail for that. I pointed out like X-Rail's Project Aura is an Android XR device. So it seems like if Apple really wants to compete, they're going to have some sort of sunglasses like this. You could call it the Apple Vision Air. I think that could be a thing. What are you working on, Igor?
So I have a review coming of these, the Fractalscape, which are for the PC nerds out there. Fractal is like one of the best PC case makers, and they decided to enter into the audio space, which is really cool. So look for that on the site today.
Cool. Yeah.
I'm also reviewing a phone that I can't say what it is, but so look to the site on a couple weeks. And then yeah, just more AI stuff. That's a couple bits of research. So yeah. How about yourself, Deb? What are you working on?
I mean, mainly that. I wanted to shout out that Vision Pro piece. I am
Mhm.
working on that review of the Vision Pro M5, so stay tuned for all of that. Any pop culture things you want to shout out, Igor?
Yeah, so my partner and I, because it's spooky season, we've been watching, and I think you'll appreciate this. We've
Mm,
been watching all of Mike Flanagan's work,
love
and I
it.
wasn't
He's a
familiar
genius. I love him.
of
Yeah.
Midnight Mass was incredible.
Hmm.
I didn't like The Haunting of Hill House as much, but still incredible. And
I
now
mean,
we're
that's
just
the one that
finishing.
got everybody started. Like he was just doing really cool stuff. But yeah, yeah. Go
Yeah.
ahead.
So yeah, if you haven't watched any of Mike Flanagan's work, and you're not ostensibly a fan of horror, I don't think it's so much. I wouldn't even really call it horror so much as like just an examination of like grief and trauma, and it's just
Through
incredible
horror,
stuff.
through horror. Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, he's doing. It's no wonder that he has become like the guy who's become very good at adapting Stephen King books. It's just like he is working on like the same level. I love everything Mike Flanagan has done. Like they don't all hit the same, but go check out Doctor Sleep if you like The Shining. His sequel to The Shining, based on the Stephen King book, is very good. And if you can, see the director's cut because it's longer and has like more context around everything happening there. But Mike Flanagan, love that man. Anything else you want to shout out, Igor?
I know that's it.
Okay. I want to say, maybe not something I'm recommending if you, depending on how you're feeling right now, but Catherine Bigelow, one of my favorite directors, is
Devindra,
back.
can
Yeah.
you take a second, like restart? Excuse me.
Yep.
Cough, then restart. Mute yourself. Cough, restart.
Okay. Hold on.
Okay. Live radio, everybody.
Live radio. Yeah, I wanted to shout out A House of Dynamite, which is the latest movie from Catherine Bigelow, one of my favorite directors. Maybe not the thing to see if you're worried about the state of the world right now, because it's essentially a scenario where nuclear bomb, nuclear missile is headed to America, and we see three scenarios of it being of the government responding to it, from first responders, for the people who run the sort of like anti-aircraft missiles, to various security personnel, right up to the president themselves. It's a really interesting exercise in sort of like process and what would happen, but it's also a very sparse movie. We don't get much contact about like where it's from or even like what happens next. Like there's a lot this movie doesn't cover. Is very much about that anxiety of like the 20-30 minutes of people being aware that a nuclear missile is headed to America. And there are things I like about it. I like Catherine Bigelow. I like movies where people are doing anxiously typing and anxiously doing work in front of computer screens because they are good at their jobs. I love professional competency porn like that. This movie has part of that, but it's also like really disjointed and weirdly could have been a Netflix series. It actually may have been better off being a Netflix series. But that's on Netflix right now. So want to shout that out. And also something more fun that's on Netflix is Splinter Cell Death Watch, the animated Splinter Cell show by the co-creator of John Wick, Derek Kolstad. It is cool. The action is cool. Liev Schreiber does the voice for Sam Fisher. And
Oh, amazing.
Liev Schreiber in voice actor mode is just fantastic these days. So I'm digging Splinter Cell Death Watch. If you miss Splinter Cell like I do, I miss those games when Ubisoft made single player games. Check this out. It's really good. I think you can wrap in.
Yep. Okay, we'll talk to chat for a little bit after this, but not for too long because it is 11:45 and we do have other things to do. So that's it for the episode. Thanks everybody for listening. Our theme music is by game composer Dale North. Our outro music is by our former managing editor, Terrence O'Brien. The podcast is produced by me, Ben Elman. You can find Igor online at
Igor Bonafacic, that's Bonifacic at Blue Sky.
You can find Devindra online at
At Devindra on Blue Sky, and a podcast about movies and TV at the Filmcast at thefilmcast.com.
If you have suggestions for movies that are much less stressful than A House of Dynamite, please send them to me at Hey Bellman on Blue Sky. Email us at podcast@engadget.com. Leave us a review on iTunes and subscribe on anything that gets podcasts. That includes Spotify.
Thanks, folks. We're out.
Okay, chat, we're talking directly to you now. Kevin says Igor has been good. He should be on more. I agree. We
Thank you,
love
Kevin.
Igor.
Yes. So
Kevin also says, can I print Ben's face on a balaclava and wear that around? Sure, if you want. Don't show it to me. Also, don't go to any protests. I don't know if it would even work. The thing that I think is really fun is like the frog costumes. The inflatable frogs are not just like for the laughs of it. It's also maybe some defense against facial recognition technology, especially if you're doing something like they're doing in Portland, Oregon, where people are like camping out in front of the ICE detention centers. Like
Yeah.
it would be trivially easy to set up some cameras and do some facial recognition on people who tend to show up there. What else do we have? Bobby Bates says, hello, Bobby. Haven't seen you in the chat before, so if this is your first time, welcome.
welcome.
Stick around, go back and watch the rest of the stream once we finish. Declan says, Dev just wants the British TV show Humans, where machines look like humans and then we'll accept them. Well, yeah, but then we'll come up with like very interesting slurs for them, like in Blade Runner. Like
For sure. And also
the most interesting thing about Blade Runner, I think, is how lived in that world is. Like, how much thought do you have to put in to think, oh yeah, we should give a slur for these robots? They should be called Skin Job.
I mean, listen, sci-fi writers used to imagine great futures, you know, like it's not just
Now
from
they
movies.
imagine
Yeah.
slurs for a class that doesn't exist.
For sure. That's the thought process. But we don't actually want human looking robots. We need cute little things that don't look human at all, but they look cute. Give me like anime mascots and shit. Like give me
Yeah.
those
Or
things, you know.
Tars from Interstellar, just like
Stars.
Yeah, yes. I
Yes.
mean, I
Yeah.
like the idea of TARS just because it's like very obviously a robot too. It's like
Obviously
you are
robot.
not attempting to approximate the human form. You're not really attempting to look all that friendly, but you are helpful. And if I want to put cat ears on you, I will.
Also, Tars has the best line in the movie, like when he's like, "Oh, it's a tetrahedron" or something.
I was so
yeah.
sad to find out like 3 weeks late that they were doing another run of IMAX showings of Interstellar, because I don't remember what the context was, but like I was hanging out with my parents. I was like, let's go see a movie. Interstellar looks kind of good. And I left that theater thinking, wow, I haven't seen a big swing of a sci-fi movie in years.
And that
I
movie
thought
is transcendent in IMAX. It is like the closest we'll ever get to actually exploring deep space. Like that's how expansive it is. Yeah.
also, as like a documentary guy, I thought that it was brilliant that they probably took non-actor senior citizens and interviewed them about what it was like being in the Dust Bowl.
Yeah.
And then recontextualize that as like Earth is dying and this is what's happening, because it's probably going to be a lot of the same ecological sort of stuff. Like immediately, because that was some of the first scenes in the movie, I was like, okay, this is very well considered, and I'm going to go wherever you want to take me, Mr. Nolan.
Yeah. I love Interstellar. I love it. Don't watch Interstellar on the plane. The emotions of that movie will just drive you insane. Kevin says, pointing out, we didn't talk about the job cuts, which often are attributed to AI. I wouldn't say they're all like AI is like the thing they can point to, but all these companies are waiting, just begging to like dump jobs because that's less money that they have to spend on a workforce, and maybe some of that will be.
It's
done
not
by
necessarily AI either.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. but there are a ton of job cuts happening right now. So this is even before the AI crash. Like these are people can be out
Yeah.
of work and struggling to eat.
Yeah.
We have the
That's my
death.
tinfoil hat POV. Like
Mhm.
these companies definitely see all the same information that we do
Mhm.
and more because they know how their own like financials are looking for this year. And they might be thinking, okay, well, things are probably going to be okay for like this year and maybe into the middle of next year, but we can't really know. So let's just do our layoffs now
Mhm.
and shore up our position for the possibility that the music stops when it comes to AI being 92% of American GDP growth.
But yeah,
Y-
things are going to be bleak, folks. Like the end of SNAP benefits in America for a lot of people, like people are going to go hungry. People are losing jobs. They're even if they have money in stocks right now, those could end up being worthless depending on how that money is allocated. So brace yourselves, folks. It's not going to be
Yeah,
pretty. Yeah.
the best analysis or comparison I've heard is that like AI is not a productivity technology; it is a way to depreciate wages.
Hmm.
I mean, the way I was talking about it on line with, I think, Sam Biddleman at the Intercept, and it was just media name dropping, but like
Stamp
the
bill.
thing,
Yeah.
Sam Biddle, yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Um, but whatever, media name dropping.
Yeah.
Um, but we were talking about how there is a similar um bunch of like finger waving, like, oh, this is like impossibly smart, and
Mm.
the thing that you ask, or when you ask AI a question, it will obviously be right because there's so much human knowledge that went into it. There's that same amount of smoke and mirrors when it comes to McKinsey consultants. They're like, we
Yeah.
got the
Oh yeah.
best people.
Yeah.
We have Olympic fencers working for us. You should trust us when we say exactly what the CEO wants to do, but
Hmm.
wants to have plausible deniability of.
And
Like
watches tank
we
economies of entire countries. These consultants. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, yeah, and also just like do big layoffs, like cut
Mhm.
the benefits for current employees. Like it's just a smoke and mirrors way of doing what the people with the money have wanted to do the entire time.
Yeah, things are going to be pretty. It's not going to be good out there for a while. But anyway, I'm glad we got to
So
sit down and chat with you all. Yeah.
yeah, to close it out, Igor, how about them Jays?
So good.
What are they doing right? Because I don't follow baseball all that much, but like why are their bats so much hotter than Shohei Ohtani?
Well, I mean, they just have much better plate discipline than the Dodgers, and they've been really good about like picking the right, balls to hit. And beyond that, I think it's just people have an overinflated view of the Dodgers starting lineup and their bullpen, and I think that's what we like. They just like lit them up last night, and it was amazing to watch. They lit them up on the first night, and that was even better to watch. Um, but the Dodgers are not out of this, so Yamamoto is going to pitch the next game, and he basically mowed down the entire offense. So I think this is going to go to a game 7, and then it's anyone's series.
I mean, the really interesting bit of it is that the Jays were so good after a 18 inning game the night before. Let's keep in mind that the Blue Jays are also an East Coast team. So their bodies were feeling like it was 3 a.m. or so at the end of that game.
Oh, I was feeling it was 3 a.m. when I was watching that.
Because it probably was 3 a.m.
It was, yeah.
Goodness gracious. Well, I think the series is probably going to be over by next week. So congratulations, or I'm sorry, if depending on how the rest of the series goes. I think that's where we're going to cut it. Thank you everybody for watching. Thanks to Kevin Says. Thanks to Bobby Bates. Bobby, come back sometime. Nice to see a new person in the chat. Thanks to that's a long name that only said okay, so I'm not going to shout them out. But dude named Charlie DPro9. Let's scroll all the way up. Oh yeah, there were some people who were in the chat, but they were like a couple of streams ago. Sorry about the technical issues, but really, thank you for sticking with us. You remember stuff we forget. You just make the chat and conversation on stream better. Camera switching by me, OBS by Devindra, Sterling Company by Igor. Thanks, everybody, and we'll see you next week.